Right, first session after lunch, so I will try my very best to pick up the energy and get the people in the room excited. Thank you for those of you that are here. There's not many of you, so we'll make this intimate and exciting. There really is no industry in the world that carries the hopes and dreams of people like the travel and tourism industry. There is no industry that has the ability to connect people, regardless of age, regardless of gender, regardless of income, regardless of where they come from in the world, like the travel and tourism industry. And I passionately believe that travel is a force for good in the world, and sustainable travel is a universal language that can bring together so many of the opportunities that exist in the world if you believe that when you get out into it and travel, you do so with a positive mindset and you do so with the ability to impact culture and impact people. Now, the business that I have started, Beautiful Destinations, is one of the largest tourism communities in the world on social media. Every single day, over 20 million people in 180 countries across the planet turn to us on Instagram, on Facebook, on YouTube, on Weibo in China to be inspired about the opportunities that exist within travel. And I have the opportunity every single day to talk to these individuals about how they can have impact. Now, the reverse of that business is the ability to sit down with leaders in governments, to sit down with ministers of tourism and talk to them about the potential of embracing a new world that exists in a world that is mobile, that is social, that is driven by video, by talking in a language that the majority of leaders of the world don't yet understand, but the majority of people around the world are now spending their time and their energy consuming and engaging in. Now, unfortunately, the opportunity within travel is perceived as one of the softer industries. It is perceived that the hard industries like manufacturing, automotive, those are the ones that generate jobs, those are the ones that generate growth, but the reality is that tourism today is an economic powerhouse. 10% of global GDP, 30% of services exports, 1 in 10 jobs in the world comes from the travel and tourism industry. It is referred to by many economists as the ATM of the world because the moment that you land in that destination, the moment you take that taxi, you buy that coffee, you have that dinner, you are putting money straight into the economy of the places that you land. If you think about the ramp-up time in manufacturing, when you build a factory, it is many years before that economic benefit is felt by the community. But with travel, it is instantaneous. So, when you combine all the cultural and societal benefits of travel with the economic benefits that we now see around the world from our industry, it looks as though we have something that's incredibly positive for the future of humanity. However, there is a downside, and that's why I'm here today, to talk about the reality that 5 to 8% of greenhouse gas emissions in the world come from the travel and tourism industry. Many of us who came here for this conference came here by plane. We know the negative impact on the world of traveling in that format. So the opportunity for us, and I hope what will come out from sessions that come here over the next few days, is the opportunity to embrace a new form of travel. Sustainable tourism. Tourism that respects both local people, the traveler, cultural heritage, and the environment, because I passionately believe that the future of our industry, the future opportunity that we have to teach our children and our children's children about the value of travel comes when you embrace sustainable tourism. So the first questions are not only understanding what is sustainable tourism, but how can I as a traveler be more sustainable when I get out into the world and I travel? And there are 2 very simple things that I would ask you to consider. One is where you travel, the actual destinations that you decide to go to. And the second is how you travel there, the modes of transport and the things that you do when you get to those destinations. So if I start with where you travel, this one is very simple. It's not rocket science. It's not stuff that you in the audience won't know. It is the idea that there are places around the world that would fundamentally benefit from your tourism dollars. And if you think about the second pillar of sustainable tourism, it is investing in local communities and understanding local people so you respect the destinations that you arrive at. Places right now in the Caribbean, places like Puerto Rico, places like Philippines, that have been hit by natural disasters, where in reality, if we are to send aid, it will take time before that aid is felt. But if we travel there, and we put money instantaneously into the economy, you can benefit people in a way that you may not realize. So the first pillar of understanding how to travel sustainably is to travel to places that need our support. The second is look a little bit deeper, look a little bit further off the beaten path. Look at places that are non-tourist destinations when you consider your next trip. We've all heard of the challenges from over-tourism that come in Barcelona in Spain or in Venice in Italy. or Reykjavik in Iceland. Now, these destinations have been so overdeveloped that over-tourism is now negative for the citizens that live there, and negative, well, positive for the economies, but negative for the people. What we don't hear about is that very, very close to these destinations are other fantastic, amazing places that you can go and visit, which are full of kind, warm, and welcoming people that would absolutely benefit if you moved your tourism dollars to those destinations. It is very, very easy to do. You just have to search a little bit deeper to find places that are off the beaten path. Now, third, look at places. Look at countries that invest in ecological tourism. Many of those leaders are here today. Amazing countries like Rwanda, like Costa Rica, like Indonesia. These are places where their leaders have stepped up and said, we realize the future of our industry has the ability to add benefits to our citizens whilst developing the economy. It is incredibly powerful when you consider the marriage of positive things from society with the positive economic benefits that can come from understanding and embracing sustainable travel. So if that first set of ideas is focused on where you travel to, the second set of ideas is how you travel. Now, many of you will know this. Again, there are challenges with using airlines. We absolutely know. May not be aware, however, that the most challenges exist when you look at short haul. Short haul is more polluting per passenger mile than any other form of transport in the world. Now, for those of you that do have some kind of social conscience when it comes to travel, you may have bought your carbon credits from airline websites. With the greatest respect to that industry, I would ask you to consider not doing that. That is because the WWF and their accreditation agency, Gold Standard, I've worked with as an ambassador for the last few years, have given me an insight into the fact that in many of those situations, there is an underground economy that allows the airline industry and private companies to make profits by putting those types of widgets on their website. So when you buy those carbon credits, they don't go to the places that they're supposed to go to. So instead of buying directly from the airline websites, consider buying those carbon credits from places like the WWF or Gold Standard. And at the end, I will show you a handful of examples of places that you can go that are very, very useful resources for how you want to think about buying carbon credits. So a boat's better. Cruise line, is that better for you when you think about your holiday? Unfortunately, no. 3 to 4 times more CO2 per passenger mile than flights. So significantly greater impact if you consider going on boats like this. They usually burn lower quality fuel as well. So you have the negative impact of the greenhouse emissions that come from using that mode of transport, and also under the water, the impact on the oceans. Really, we could go on all day talking about the challenges that we have introduced to the oceans with the way that we travel and the way we consume our energy. And of course, we've all seen the images of hundreds, if not thousands of people descending off cruise lines into destinations in the immediate, huge, quick infrastructure impact that happens when they descend on those places. So boats are not much better. Now again, as I said at the start, it's not rocket science. You'll be unsurprised to hear that the most sustainable form of transport is through trains. Lowest cost per passenger mile, 4 times more fuel efficient than cars, lowest greenhouse gas emissions. So knowing that information, there are tour operators, there are companies that are set up that will show you exactly how you get to the destinations that you want to get to, but by using more green and more efficient modes of transport. You just have to know where to look. So those are all the things that you can consider before you actually go out on your travel. There is also one other area that I would ask everyone to think about, and that is the understanding of your impact. If you don't know your impact, you're not going to care. If you don't know your impact, you're not going to measure something that you can be able to then reduce. So the simplest and easiest way to know your impact is to look at a credible carbon calculator. And the WWF, particularly in the UK, has a carbon credit calculator that you can use that is incredibly powerful at telling you what your actual carbon footprint is. It takes the 3 main lifestyle considerations: the transportation that you use in your day-to-day life, the consumption of goods and services, and the consumption of energy in all the things that you do. It puts them together and it gives you a carbon credit score, which allows you to then take action. So you'll be unsurprised to see that my carbon footprint is large. And the reason that I'm sharing it is because I am in the travel and tourism industry. I'm very passionate about this industry, but I'm also very passionate about the accountability that I need to bring, that all of you can bring if you want to make an impact in sustainability. I can take my carbon footprint, which, if anyone is doubting, is the big orange one, and I can now use that information to take action and buy credits that will have an impact. I can also do that for my business. I've been able to work with the WWF and Gold Standard and a number of other climate consultancies to understand the exact impact from the fact that I have teams going all over the world shooting, teams that are creating carbon footprints. So very simply, we're able to calculate the total number of miles that we do here from all the trips that we're able to calculate different rates that we generate carbon based on the different modes of transport that we use. We're then able to add that data to the impact that we have when we stay in the places that we stay in. Actually, one of the biggest learnings we found was that it is significantly better for the environment when we were splitting our stays between hotels and the shared economy, because places like Airbnb had significantly lower carbon emission impacts than the hotels did. So we split our time between the two. Now, those two data sets allow us to come up with an absolute number for what our impact was, allows us to then generate a physical cash value that we can go and pay from our profits, that allows us to become an organization that is actually what we call climate positive, which is that we take more out than we put out into the atmosphere. We're very proud of that, and it's something that's actually very simple for you to do. So if you want to have an impact, if you want to do something meaningful, if you really want to stand up and vote with your tourism dollars, there are 3 resources that I would highly encourage you to consider. The first is the Global Sustainable Tourism Council. This is the industry body that will allow you to go in and understand what is happening from a legislator's perspective, what is happening from a governmental perspective. As I explained at the beginning, my business works very, very closely with governments to help them understand the impact that they can have in actually promoting and pushing tourism, and the Sustainable Tourism Council allows us to have more of an ecological backbone when we make these decisions and we build these partnerships. The second, more for the individual traveler, is the International Ecotourism Society. This is absolutely the de facto industry body for individuals. This will be where you can find the most ecological hotels, the most ecological tour operators. You can use that as your resource to understand what to do. So, recognizing the opportunity that exists in travel, as I said at the beginning, I passionately believe it is a force for good in the world. I passionately believe we have the opportunity to change society if we get out it and we travel with a positive mindset. And I hope in the short time that I've had with you, I've convinced you of the opportunity to travel more sustainably. So thank you.